Story 1. I stopped seeking approval, embraced failure, accepted that people's opinions do not define me, focused on what I can control, and realized that most things do not matter in the long run. Freedom followed. Story 2. There are only two types of problems. 1. Those you can do something about. Take action and it is no longer a problem. Those you cannot change. Therefore, do not waste energy worrying about them. Story 3. Worrying is worshiping the problem. Words and thoughts have power. Encourage yourself to create a happy, healthy life. Story 4. Over time, you realize that the same people who criticize you or express negative opinions are not contributing to your financial well-being. So you stop caring about anyone who does not support you. Story 5. Well, usually the first question I ask myself is, does it impact me in any way? If no, then I just move on without comment. If yes, I ask myself, can I change that? If no, I don't care. If yes, I will take action and get it done. Story 6. You control your actions, not the thoughts of others shaped by your actions. Everything else is just the thoughts of others over which you have no control. Why stress over things you can't change? Focus your energy on things you can control. Story 7. I started evaluating people. I do not care about those I do not respect. Boss, I don't care. Stranger disapproving of my tattoos? I don't care. Story 8. The recipe is simple. Can you solve the problem that worries you? If not, it doesn't matter. But if you can, what's the point in worrying? Story 9. Everyone is living their own reality. Live yours. Don't worry about others because they are not you. Nobody is you. You are one of a kind. Story 10. Everything is arbitrary and subjective. No one has a clue. We all die in the end, without exception, and even the most celebrated among us will one day be forgotten in this universe, so why should we care? Story 11. I'm old and cranky. There's so much negativity in the world that caring feels like too much effort for no gain. It doesn't matter if I care. It just disappears. Focus all available energy towards achievable goals, and everything else can be set aside. A decade of therapy and a well-planned medication regimen certainly help. Story 12. The things that matter to me are worth investing my energy in. The likelihood that I will come across a random stranger or any situation that is consuming my precious energy is high. I will probably never see them again, and they likely won't remember or care the next day. If they are the type of person who remembers and cares, then they aren't worth my energy in the first place, as they drain my vitality. Story 13. Learn to control your thoughts. Start by controlling 1 out of 100, then 2 out of 100, and before you know it, you will be controlling your thoughts. Once you have control, you will decide what kind of mindset you will use. You can reach a relaxed level or remain calm if you choose. Story 14. I could not function if I cared about everything I instinctively want to care about. I had to adopt a "it is what it is" mentality just to stay functional. Story 15. Stop worrying about what other people think about you and practice radical acceptance. Story 16. When you use the 4 F's, it's easy. Does it feed, benefit, finance me, or bring me a good future? Then I don't care. Story 17. I have been used and mistreated too many times. I do not let anyone take advantage of me. I have always helped friends just like my dad did. Many have never lifted a finger when I needed assistance. It's all or nothing. I still help strangers, but I never expect anything in return. Story 18. When you continually lose and feel betrayed, and everyone you thought was friends and family abandons you after you have repeatedly helped them in the past, it changes you. You were raised to care, spending the first 30 or so years of your life giving your all, working hard, and doing what you believed was the right thing, only to end up with nothing and have it all thrown back in your face. You say enough is enough. You start living day to day, seeking out the little happiness and joy you can find for yourself, moment by moment. Story 19. I faced significant challenges in life multiple times, sometimes due to luck and sometimes due to my own mistakes. Eventually, I stopped caring, and this marked a turning point for me. Story 20. Learn to tell the difference between a problem and a detail. A problem is something that can be solved and will benefit from your attention. A detail is simply something you will address as it arises. Story 21. I care deeply about a few things: my family, myself, my career, and my home. These four priorities occupy my attention, leaving little room for anything else. So when new challenges arise, I remain indifferent. People notice this about me, and they appreciate it. Story 22. I care deeply about a few things: my family, myself, my career, and my home. These four aspects occupy my focus, leaving me little room for anything else. So when something arises, I remain indifferent. People notice this in me and they appreciate it. Story 23. It's something acquired through experience. There are only a few people whose opinions actually affect your life. 1. Your spouse. 2. Your boss. 3. Your children. 4. Your dog. These four can seriously disrupt your day if they don't like you. The rest doesn't matter. Story 24. It's something acquired through experience. Only a few people whose opinions actually affect your life are significant. 1. Your spouse. 2. Your boss. 3. Your children. 4. Your dog. These four can seriously impact your day if they don't like you. The rest doesn't matter. Story 25. I was raised that way. Things are going to happen, and unless you can see them coming, there is nothing you can do to stop them. Even if you can see it, there are no guarantees. So instead of dwelling on the outcome, do what you can to make it through. Life has a way of being relentless, and you have to find a way to cope. Story 26. From a psychological perspective, whenever you feel the urge to care, just don't identify with your feelings. That is what I have read, at least, but it helps me. Essentially, when you feel intense emotions, treat them as feelings that are not yours, as in they do not belong to me. Story 27. It's a decision you make. In the early days, you catch yourself and have to remind yourself. Before long, it becomes second nature. Story 28. What other people think about me is irrelevant and shouldn't affect me. I will do what I want or need to do, and you can do what you want to do. Story 29. How do I not care? It's not a choice, you simply become. It's the trials of hard experience that shape the attitude of indifference. It's age and the result of constantly overcoming obstacles in a world filled with negativity. It's from shattered dreams, addictions, failures, and emotional pain so overwhelming it numbs your very being. But I do not care. I have some cannabis. Story 30. Everyone, including myself, who replied cares about something. Replying and sharing their opinions are important to them. Those who are not reading your question are the ones who truly do not care. Story 31. I live a stress-free life. I am a straight, white, wealthy, married retiree. What exactly should worry me? Story 32. I prefer to focus on my work, which allows me to get a lot done during lessons while others chat about unrelated topics. I do have friends, but they often seem indifferent to what's important. Story 33. The keep scrolling mentality in real life is not to say that one is totally indifferent. If I care about something, I have plenty of concern to give, more than average even. However, it feels like my brain conducts a mental cost-benefit analysis of situations and determines that the effort I invest will either not add much value or will cause me more frustration than good for others. A great example would be my early days on Reddit when I joined the "Am I the Asshole?" community. It was full of people lacking assertiveness, and I don't mean just by Reddit standards but in general. I used to read a few posts here and there, but eventually these made me angry, so I left the group. Why waste energy on negative content when I can fill my feed with things I enjoy, such as crochet and cats? 24 hours aren't a lot. Spend them wisely. Story 34. You know that one song by Thomas Bradley Wild, "Yescu"? I've no more ****KS to give. This is my explanation. Story 35. When you care too much for too long, you simply run out. Personally, I reached a point in my life where it affected me because I was overly concerned about what others thought and how they perceived me. It became overwhelming, and one day I just decided to let it go, and that was the last time I allowed it to affect me. Story 36. Care about what or who is important to you at any given time. Do not waste your valuable energy on what others may think of you. Story 37. I live for myself. Why should I think about what others think? At the end of the day, I am not going to remember some stranger. And if they remember me, we all die, taking our memories with us. Story 38. I don't want to be alive. I haven't felt this way for years. It's hard to care when you're in that kind of situation. Story 39. None of what is in the headlines deserves any of my attention. Well, except for finances, maybe. For some reason, I care about my own life much more than about democracy, politics, or the various issues people face. In my free time, I play games and listen to music. Story 40. Care deeply until you have no feelings left to give, and then embrace the warm glow of indifference. Now you are the cool person too. Story 41. Age and experience are important, but honestly, after surviving a stepfather trying to harm you at the age of 10, everything else seems minor. Story 42. I worry about my things because I want to have a happy and fulfilling life. However, I genuinely do not care about what others think. They are free to think whatever they like. Just do not bother me. Story 43. It includes bans from the subreddit, being considered unusual and feeling isolated. It's not a choice, so I endure it. The best part is recognizing how foolish people can be in comparison to you. The worst part is realizing how foolish people are, and knowing that nothing will ever change that. Story 44. Wear your shirts inside out for a week. Then do the same with your sweaters and pants. Once you get through that, nothing will faze you. Story 45. As you grow older, you come to the conclusion that nothing matters apart from what you think. Nobody can make you think in any way or affect your mood. You have to allow it. It's your choice, so why should you care what other people think? Story 46. A very wise friend of mine has a motto I have been using myself for years. I am sorry, but I have a limited number of concerns to give. Choose well what you care about and ignore what you don't. Story 47. Learning any advice from others who are not willing to support you practically does not matter. This consideration includes personal obligations and other factors. Story 48. What do you gain from stressing out? Why rush places? Just take your time and try to enjoy the little things in life. Even the ride from home to work can be beautiful if you pay attention. You are alive. Don't waste it. Story 49. After 20 years of living with depression and anxiety, along with all the emotional challenges that accompany it, I somehow unlocked a new mental state. Now, most of that emotional intensity is gone, and my concern for various issues has diminished. So, for anything that arises, I ask myself, do I have the mental capacity to care about this? The answer is nearly always an apathetic no. Story 50. I have been beaten and left for dead, stabbed, shot at, and seen the love of my life take her final breath. There is nothing worse than that. Story 51. I started caring less when I realized rent is due either way. My boss still chews with his mouth open, and life isn't a movie. It's a long-running sitcom with no writers left. Story 52. By realizing that you only get one life, living it by caring about what other people say or think is a waste of your time and energy. Direct that focus into your goals and ambitions and see how happiness and success become intertwined for you. Story 53. Do you mean not caring about what people say or think about you, or not being concerned about the negativity around you? Either way, my answer is that you should focus on yourself. You can't impose a mindset of indifference. My perspective is that if something causes me more stress than it actually presents as a problem, then it isn't worth my mental energy. Misery is a choice. Story 54. It's not that you suddenly stop caring about everything in your life at once. For example, to stop caring at work, you need experience. After a while, you realize that there is very little correlation between caring and the outcome, and you begin to stop caring. But you need to experience it firsthand. Story 55. Learn how not to take everything personally. Respect diversity, be open-minded, and lastly, mind your own business. Story 56. Talk less and keep your head down. After some time, you will realize that 90% of the conversation is about people or none of your business. Story 57. You cannot change what you cannot control. It is like sitting down and watching cars pass by and getting frustrated simply because you cannot control the flow of traffic. Just let them pass. The same applies to everything else you cannot control. Allow it to flow if it does not affect you directly. This also applies to other people's opinions or attitudes. Story 58. There comes a point in life where you stop getting annoyed at the world. It is full of difficult people and is going the way it is going regardless of your personal opinion on things. In my teens and 20s, I was quite political. In my 30s, it started to fade, especially when I realized the media controls elections. We had a chance for change in the United Kingdom, but the media sabotaged that opportunity, and we missed our chance to improve society for the better. That was in 2017 when we had just committed the biggest act of self-sabotage with Brexit, and I stopped caring about any of it. It goes the way it goes regardless. Now, at 41, I simply do not care anymore. There is no point. Story 59. This concept relates to your personality and the characteristics of your role models. If you tend to worry and one of your parents shares this trait, you are likely to be concerned about what others do or say. This would probably be true if you are an introvert or feel insecure due to bullying. Conversely, if you are more extroverted and have parents or siblings who are self-assured and less concerned about strangers, worrying may not play a significant role in your life. Story 60. During lockdown, I was overwhelmed and ended up having 2 to 4 anxiety and panic attacks a day. After a while, I felt completely numb. Now, I have no anxiety left in me, but I feel as if everything else is gone as well. Story 61. All you younger people, I never thought I would be typing that, but oh well. Maybe you haven't experienced enough difficult situations in your life. Perhaps you just haven't experienced much of anything yet. Get disappointed to the point of tears a few hundred times, lose a few well-paying jobs through no fault of your own, get broken up with by trophy partners a few times through no fault of your own, get stabbed, get shot at, and get cursed out as a preteen by every person that crosses your path. Then you have permission to not care. Otherwise, remain silent and keep navigating this life until you understand. Disclaimer: before anyone feels offended, everyone has their own challenges that lead them to the point of indifference. Carry on. Story 62. It comes with age. The more experience you gain, the more your don't care attitude develops. Also, meditate and stay aware. Empty your mind when someone speaks negatively to you. In goes the good and out goes the bad. Only take in positive thoughts and leave negative ones outside. Prioritize your mental health. Story 63. Rationalize these situations. You will end up realizing that you don't have to care about them. Practice letting things go in one ear and out the other. Story 64. Ego gets in the way of many things. Once you let it go, you can enjoy life. Hey, you are not good. Me, well, I had to be the best at something, I suppose. Was I disrespected? Sure. Do I care? No. I'm going home to play video games and eat whatever I want. Story 65. To be honest, it is a constant training for me to not care. But as with all training, the results improve over time. Breathing exercises and mental images, such as my happy place, help me tremendously as an introvert, as I can shut off almost anything now just with 2 to 3 deep breaths. Story 66. I have a sleep disorder. To be honest, it is probably more than one, but at least one has been diagnosed. When every night is a gamble and you regularly spend hours lying awake begging to fall asleep, suddenly the rest of your problems don't seem as significant. That meeting at work that went poorly? If we slept well, it's a good day. Your peers from high school are doing better than you in life. Let's see them try to live on a few hours of sleep each night and see where they end up. Your finances aren't doing so well? Given that your lifespan could be shortened by sleep issues, you might as well live while you can. Chronic suffering is difficult, but it does provide perspective on the other problems in life. Story 67. When I was setting appointments at Sears Home Services, I was lucky if I could get 1% of the people I engaged to sign up for an appointment. My closing rate was among the highest in my region because I didn't care. I never felt happy if I got a yes, sad if I got a no, or upset if I was called inappropriate names for following customers through the clothing section with my clipboard. I did enjoy watching new salespeople coming in during the recession from successful real estate or auto sales careers, explaining on their first day how they were going to excel at the job. It was amusing to see the looks on their faces after their first weeks, with their lifeless eyes in shock. Nobody, myself included, excelled at that job. I was like a detached machine with a clipboard, but I produced good numbers and sometimes had a decent time just chatting with people. Story 68. Do you see that field over there? I use it to grow my concerns. As you can see, when looking at my field, it's barren. That's because I don't have any concerns to give. Story 69. This is not possible. Humans have a survival instinct, and if you do not care, you would most likely be dead. Story 70. Probably regular bullying for being a goth and metalhead in the 1990s and early 2000s, especially after Columbine, cemented my lack of concern for what people think of me. This disregard extended to other aspects of my life. Years later, I did care when unusual hair colors and patterns became popular, and I noticed those who had bullied me for my hair becoming absolute hypocrites with their expensive mermaid ombre hairstyles, while good old Manic Panic had done the job back in the day. Story 71. The planet is in a dire state. Humanity's actions lead me to believe that we may ultimately bring about our own demise. Story 72. It has a lot to do with how old you are. When I reached about 45, I stopped caring about what other people think. I no longer paid attention to their opinions. Story 73. At one point in my life, I was homeless with very few friends to rely on. I ended up driving 20 hours straight to stay with my brother for a while. Once you gain perspective on how difficult things can become in life, you stop worrying about the small issues as much. Story 74. In Bavaria, Germany, we say, "Scheiß de nix, Dan fade de nix," which means something like, "Don't worry about it, then you're fine." I think that's wonderful. Story 75. If you are self-sufficient, earning your own money, preparing your own meals, and taking care of your living space, why do you concern yourself with others? Story 76. Well, first I take my ring out, admire and cherish it, then put it back into its safe where it will stay as an heirloom that only my children will receive from me. Story 77. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Story 78. The secret is that even they care. However, it's about very specific things. You just don't recognize their triggers. Story 79. Just shut it off. Change the channel. Usually you do care, maybe even a little more, until you have enough of whatever nonsense it is. Whatever foolish games someone thinks they are playing or someone who believes they can manipulate or intimidate you into something. When it gets boring, just shut it off. I gave my last care probably 30 years ago, so nope, no more cares to give. Story 80. Vaping cannabis, not being young where you think everything matters, and not caring what others think of you. Story 81. The only times I don't care is when I have been pushed so far that I have no more care left to give. This usually happens when I am dealing with sleep deprivation and many things going wrong at the same time for several days. Then one day I just think, forget it. Everything is messed up anyway, no matter what I do. I love that version of myself. So confident, with no social anxiety and very straightforward. Unfortunately, that state usually lasts only a few hours or a day before my anxiety returns. Story 82. Old and my dwindling reserve of ducks is kept for special occasions. The orange individual is a severe threat to this reserve. Story 83. What you are asking is quite vague. Everyone cares about something. Do you mean in the workplace? In social situations? Being less self-conscious? With relationships? Story 84. I think this conversation from The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fits. Slartibartfast. Perhaps I'm old and tired, but I think that the chances of finding out what is actually going on are so absurdly remote that the only thing to do is to say, forget the sense of it, and keep yourself busy. I'd much rather be happy than right any day. Arthur Dent. And are you? Slartibartfast. No. Laughs. Slartibartfast. Well, that's where it all falls down, of course. Story 85. I had a neighbor who was struck in front of my house by a driver who fell asleep at the wheel. He was the same age as me, had 2 kids and a wife, and suddenly he was just gone. I realized that any day this could happen to me. Life can be too short to care excessively about the small things that don't matter much. I didn't pass my test, so what? At least I tried. I got rejected, so what? Life could end at any time due to a random event, so you need to live your best life with some prudence. Story 86. Stop letting others manipulate your emotions. That is literally what they want to do to you. If you are emotional, it is a known fact that you are unable to think clearly. That is how they control you. Why do you think martial arts teach you to keep your emotions in check? When you are emotional, you are not composed and therefore not in control. In a fight, someone will try to attack your emotions because it can throw you off balance. It is the same concept. Stop allowing them to control you. Story 87. I don't recommend how I began. I was 22 or 23, on leave from the army, when I hit and killed a teenager on the road. After I got my head straightened out from that, it became a protection mechanism. Story 88. Because I spent decades caring and all I got was high blood pressure. None of it matters. At best, the extra stress will shorten your life, and at worst, you'll live to the age of 90 while worrying every day. Story 89. I wake up every morning to find the jar where I keep all of my concerns smashed on the ground, and all my concerns have scattered away. So, I have to spend the day collecting new concerns for the next day. And it repeats itself. Story 90. At the end of the day, we are on a floating rock, moving through space. I couldn't care less about anything, even if I tried. Story 91. I care about what my wife thinks. I care about how my daughter grows up. Essentially, those 2 people influence my choices in life. But give me one good reason to care about what anyone else thinks. Story 92. It doesn't affect me, so I don't care. I was speaking with someone recently about the situation in the Middle East, and I told her that I don't care about either side. She won't speak to me anymore. She got very upset. Story 93. I gave all my concerns away faster than I could get them back about 15 years ago. That's about it. We just ran out of concerns to give. Story 94. I first figure out if anything I say or do will have any impact on the thing that demands my attention. Usually, it does not have an impact. I then fail to see how caring about that thing helps anyone, let alone myself. I don't waste my energy on things I cannot change because that just brings frustration. It's like being worried about dying. There is absolutely nothing you can do to avoid that inevitable outcome of living. It would be unwise to waste your life worrying about death. I suspect this is the problem with deeply religious individuals. They are irrationally scared of death when it is the most natural part of life. Everything dies. Story 95. Most issues people face are usually related to other individuals. Once you realize they are just people and their opinions do not really matter, that particular social weight disappears. In my younger years, I used to compare everything to my impending death, which of course reduced those problems to nothing. These days, I am less pessimistic, but my approach to problems has evolved into being better at prioritizing. I do have problems, but the smaller ones are so far down the list that I do not even think about them. To clarify, it is not people I dislike or think little of. It is simply knowing that people's opinions of me have as much impact as mine do of them. Essentially, nothing. Story 96. They are getting over, so I am trying to save them for bigger or more worthy moments. I ask myself 2 questions. 1. Does this person matter to me? Is this person better than me? Is this person the one to judge me? Story 97. In my case, I went from being a self-conscious teenager to an adult who does not care, largely due to realizing that the will to act is all that matters. All those expectations set by others and all those empty thoughts I had do not mean anything. Afterward, I felt unbreakable. Story 98. My brain thinks like this. Can the problem be solved? If yes, then don't worry about it. If no, then there's no point in worrying about it. Story 99. The more foolish people I meet, the less importance I place on others' opinions unless it's someone I already care about and value. I have encountered many foolish individuals. Story 100. There's no way to explain how to do it, but as I get older, I just stop caring about what others think or do. Story 101. I'm not sure when it started, but I began to think, the average person seems rather uninformed and easily deceived. As a result, I stopped caring about what the average person thinks and started focusing on my own thoughts and their validity. I questioned whether my beliefs were accurate or not and sought to understand what could be reliably demonstrated. When you base your life on facts, logic, and reason, a lot of the distracting noise from others tends to fade into the background. Facts, logic, and reason do not depend on how someone feels about a particular subject. They remain constant regardless of human interpretation. So why worry about 75% of what the public is concerned about? No, I prefer to think for myself, thank you. Story 102. The only thing you have to do is die. All other things are a choice. Think about the last funeral you attended. Did you care about that person? Do you think of them often? It will be the same in reverse for you. Parents usually care for their children, but siblings do not always have the same level of concern. In reality, does that matter? Eventually, you will start doing things for yourself, not for others. Story 103. As soon as you realize that you are just an evolved amoeba running around a planet, in the middle of billions of other planets, and that nothing you do or say really matters, then it becomes easy. Story 104. I have always had a difficult time understanding the future or the potential consequences. If something occurs, the only options are to address it or ignore it. Story 105. I don't know. Dwelling on it is a waste of time. Things that are out of my control, worrying will never change the outcome anyway. Out of sight, out of mind. I'd be thinking so much about that person, but is he doing the same thing? Sometimes, just live your life. Be present. Story 106. I don't have enough energy to focus on everything. It takes away the stress from problems that aren't mine. I choose not to engage if it's not important or outside of my control. Story 107. We are just a small part of time in the world. It existed thousands of years before us and will continue to exist thousands of years after us. There was life before me, and there will be life after me. In the grand scheme of things, I do not matter. But do you know what that means? Other people do not matter either. Their opinions, their thoughts, and what they have to say are all irrelevant. Since I have only a very brief moment to be here on this earth, why would I allow anyone else to dictate how I spend that time? Story 108. You reach a point in life when you realize you have cared too much about what others think and begin to focus more on yourself. Story 109. Identify what you can and cannot control. If you cannot control it, let it go. Worrying about something outside of your control does nothing except affect you negatively. Story 110. Prioritize what is important and honor it. Do not compromise. That is how I approach it. What may seem like an unpopular choice now pays off in the long run, so I stick to my morals and keep moving forward. I apply this principle to everything in life. Story 111. Have you tried it? It's liberating to not care. If we're talking about Reddit specifically and the voting system, embrace your downvotes with pride. Downvotes aren't an indication that you're wrong. They indicate that you've upset people. Sometimes people are upset by things that aren't important. Once downvotes begin on a comment or post, they don't stop coming even if others comment in agreement with you, so let them come. Don't delete your content. It doesn't matter. Story 112. Option 1. 1. Locate your item. 2. Take your item. 3. Do not give your item. 4. Profit. Option 2. 1. Locate your item. 1.a. What item? 1.the. Exactly. Profit. Story 113. Think of it this way. Nobody is superior to you, and you are not superior to anyone else. See everyone as equal to yourself so that you are not affected by what others think. Story 114. I am not one of these Reddit users, so I wonder which one you mean. Some of these individuals do not care and can be quite unreasonable. Story 115. There are certain times in life when you should care. There are certain times when you should care deeply. There are many times when you should not care at all. So ask yourself, is this worth caring about? Story 116. I am a tall person and always stand out. As a teenager, I tried to blend in, but after a few years, I've realized that it's a pointless effort. I started wearing clothes and colors I like, even if they aren't in fashion. People pay attention to me regardless. This resulted in me having more confidence in myself, which in turn influenced my whole life. I've reached the point where I stopped worrying about what people I don't care about think a long time ago and do things my way as long as it's legal. Story 117. It's easy to see that if you hold on to negative energy about things that don't matter, you are clinging to feelings that are unnecessary. I don't care what others think of me or about things I cannot control, such as the world or politics, and I find that I am living a fun and fulfilling life. My parents often worry and complain about things beyond their control, seeming to live in a cycle of negativity, but they are naturally inclined to worry. I have to tune out from them and just nod and smile. Story 118. I don't live my life for other people. Once you fully accept that, you will no longer care about what others think. Story 119. Stop feeling the bullshit. I believe it was Tennessee Williams who once wrote, "The key to happiness is insensitivity." On the surface, it sounds harsh, almost nihilistic. However, being overly sensitive to pain, injustice, rejection, and judgment makes happiness elusive. If you absorb every wound, real or perceived, your emotional life becomes a minefield. To survive emotionally, some measure of insensitivity or at least emotional resilience is necessary. Not because you don't care, but because you must protect yourself from being perpetually undone by the world. So, yes, happiness does seem to belong to those who just stop caring. This is the way I see it. The sensitive ones feel the challenges. The resilient ones navigate through them. It's not about becoming cold or uncaring. It's about survival. So, if you want peace, you have to grow armor, but the armor dulls the beauty, too. You just need to pick your battles. Story 121. Practice. 2. Exhaustion. I'm naturally concerned about everything, but having worked in retail for years, I learned to take things less personally. Experiencing burnout that drastically impacted my health made me more cautious about what I care about. What helps is focusing on what's within my control and trying to let go of everything else. It's not easy and doesn't always work as I hope, but it helps. I'm young, and I have a whole life ahead of me to improve. Story 121. Hot take. Nobody actually runs out of care. They just learn where it's better to invest their energy. For instance, not taking insults from people whose advice they wouldn't value. Story 122. I keep this in mind. You can be the juiciest and best-looking apple in the world, but others may still prefer oranges. Whatever you do, good or bad, people will always have something to say about it, so I give zero thought to their opinions now. Story 123. Intentionally, you find yourself caring about something you'd rather not care about. You pause and tell yourself, I think I will not care about this thing. Then you relax all the tension in your body, let it go, and focus on something you would rather care about. For example, that person thinks I'm unpleasant. Whatever. Maybe they're unpleasant. I wonder what it would be like to be a platypus. Story 124. If it's something I have no control over, like politics or the news, why should I waste time and energy worrying about it? I can prepare, but that's all I can do. I don't watch the news anymore. Story 125. I have been shaped by my experiences, and I no longer require assistance in certain areas. Life becomes a series of choices in how to respond. Over time, you learn to manage challenges better and concentrate on what you can control. A good therapist can also make a significant difference. Story 126. I have numerous health issues that make it difficult for me to care about anyone else's problems. If I don't choose to live my life happily, I risk spending my entire life in sorrow over trivial matters. That will not be my reality. Story 127. Many people have told me that in your teenage years, your problems don't matter as much as those that occur in your adult years. I live by that idea every day. Story 128. If you are not family, a friend, or someone who influences my paycheck, I do not care what you say or think about me. Story 129. When you get down to your last resource, you realize it needs to be saved for something truly special. lest you one day gaze upon a barren field of resources when you need that last one to give. Story 130. Being homeless really teaches you to stop caring about how you are perceived. You are looked at with disdain by everyone, so you learn to find value in yourself. Story 131. If there is a problem and I can solve it, the problem is solved. If there is a problem and I cannot solve it, I let it go. The problem is solved. It works every time. Story 132. When my adult daughter died, it brought so much into perspective. I was never able to achieve a sense of indifference before, but it came to me organically after she passed away. It's very freeing. We are all going to die. Story 133. By prioritizing what is important in life or in that moment, we can determine what truly matters. For instance, is it more important to wait for a reply, eat food, shower, clean the house, worry about work, or focus on actually working hard? Story 134. Life is meaningless. We live for many years just to die. So what if I die? I haven't been alive in this world for many years already. I might as well return to how things were before I drew breath. Story 135. None of you will ever see me face to face, and if you did, I would just be a random stranger, so who cares? Live and let live. Story 136. It's easy to ignore negativity online since you don't have to read or respond to unhelpful comments. Story 137. I don't think many people truly don't care in general. Those who seem indifferent usually care about a limited number of things that they can influence. Identify the aspects of life you can control and focus on the ones that matter to you. Caring deeply about a few things makes it easier to remain indifferent about the majority of things. Story 138. I just don't care. People stress about all kinds of things and I just don't give it much thought. What's the worst that can happen? I have an essay to write by Monday and haven't even started. Who cares? I work 3 night shifts this week, which gives me more than enough time to write it down. Story 139. Caring requires me to invest in matters that do not concern me. Not caring is simple and carefree. I choose the latter. Story 140. Get hurt often enough. If things go wrong frequently and severely despite all your efforts, you gradually take on a more passive, observational role in your own life that allows for greater objectivity. Unfortunately, the best results are often achieved when you have your heart broken by your significant other, which tends to lead people down a darker path. Story 141. Just don't waste your time on things that don't directly concern you. Don't take everything personally. Life is life. Challenges happen. Story 142. When you realize that the person you are arguing with is likely not understanding, you will lose the motivation to care about what they say. Story 143. Another person expressed it very well. I care, but the list of things is short, and everything else does not merit my attention. Story 144. Releasing the belief that worrying about things beyond my control will achieve anything. If I care about something and can act on it, that's great. If I'm stressed about the state of the world, focusing on it constantly and worrying will not resolve the issue. Stop punishing yourself for things outside of your control, such as the state of the world or other people's opinions. Story 145. I realized that everyone has been undermining my self-worth instead of bettering themselves. Story 146. Outside of places I frequent, I realized I will probably never see any of these people again, so I don't care what I do or if I am judged for it. Ultimately, that judgment is on them, not on me. We have one life, and statistically, I am likely at least halfway done with mine since I am turning 40 this year, so I will do what I want, when I want, and how I want. Story 147. Many of the things you desire are completely out of your reach, and there is nothing you can do about it, so you accept your fate. Story 148. I'm picky about where I spend my energy. If someone is not worth my time, I do not care enough to correct them. Story 149. We are all on the same journey, and the destination isn't right here, so we shouldn't take our surroundings too personally. There may be many distractions nearby, but I won't worry about them when I can turn on the radio and sing. Story 150. Chronic illness has limited the concern I can express each day. I'd love to get rid of the illnesses, but I'll keep the restriction on my concern. Story 151. I realized that the only opinions that matter are mine. Most people I interact with do not matter. As long as my family and I are content, then I do not care. Story 152. It is impossible for you to get a real answer here because providing one would imply caring. Story 153. Raised in a family where I felt like the black sheep who went unnoticed. To give you an idea, I am allergic to shellfish, and I recall as early as age 10 my family preparing shellfish for dinner and telling me to figure it out. After years, I simply don't care. I lack the patience and the energy. I can barely muster the energy to care for myself, let alone for others. Story 154. Life is too short to worry about insignificant matters. Focus on your family and the people you are currently dealing with. Everyone else can be disregarded. Story 155. When your dreams fade because you didn't have opportunities. When you accept that you will die and there is nothing you can do about it. When there is no longer a light at the end of the tunnel. When you realize life is just misery with just enough good things to keep you from losing your mind, that is when you stop caring. Story 156. I am 60 years old, retired, and living off-grid. I do not care. Life is too short to worry about things I have little control over. Story 157. All mental challenges do not depend on age. You just need to experience them to overcome them. Use your disadvantages as advantages. Story 158. It is a specialized form of a Zen-based, non-focused disregard for stupidity and evil. Just expect the worst 99% of the time, and everything falls into place. Story 159. Not caring can be maladaptive or self-defeating, but eventually, you find a good balance between caring about things that matter and those that do not. Story 160. Generally, someone asks me to care, but then I tell them how much it's going to cost them, and it turns out I no longer need to care. Story 161. Whenever you wonder what someone is thinking, doing, planning, wearing, saying, or eating, you are showing concern. Just focus on yourself and worry only about the person who pays your bills. Do not let anyone occupy your mind without contributing. Story 162. Read The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. I have read The Subtle Art of Not Giving AF*CK by Mark Manson, but Mel's perspective offers a deeper level of understanding and context. Story 163. Post-nut clarity without engaging in sexual activity is what made me realize this. Now I'm far away from the midnut crisis and therefore relaxing. Story 164. I don't know, to be honest. I've always been like this. If I'm not interested, I really couldn't care less, and that goes for everything, including people. Story 165. I faced a life-threatening experience when I was brought back from a medically induced coma after a severe lung infection caused my heart to stop. Now I feel invincible and cannot believe I allowed anything to harm my heart and soul to such an extent. Life is precious and resilient, and we are all made from the same DNA. We all deserve respect. Pursue your passions and take pride in who you are. Story 166. I don't recommend being indifferent, but I am extremely selective about what I care about. Determine your values and ask yourself if you are truly impressed by the people you are trying to impress. This approach helps you focus on what matters, reserving your energy for the things that truly serve you. Story 167. I do and I don't. There are some things that are entirely outside of your control, things that were bound to happen no matter what, and things that are simply a matter of chance. You must let go and relinquish the sense of control you desire because that is truly an illusion. Story 168. It's about caring for the right things and understanding that not everything has to matter. Story 169. Age helps a lot. However, I started small by refusing to be offended, especially on behalf of other people. Then I filtered my concerns. I realized that if my concerns were based on ignorance or negligence, were preventable, or were someone else's responsibility, I could eliminate those as well. Next, I prioritized my concerns. If something did not directly affect me, my family, my friends, or my dog, it properly belonged to someone else. So, technically, I have concerns to give, but only a very few. However, the impact of those concerns, if I choose to express them, will be significant. Story 170. Just do not care about anything, and when you want to care, do not concern yourself with anything. Story 171. I think about it and then realize it's not the end of the world. If it's something I really want and I fail at it, I stop, take a breath, and then try again at another time. There is only so much I can do, and sometimes I can be right and do everything right and still be wrong, and that's just part of life. There's no sense in pulling myself apart for things I can't control, and if I can control it, there's no point in crying now. I should have done a better job, but I will do better next time. Every time something gets to me, I remember what I wrote above and end up not worrying about it. Essentially, I tell myself it's going to be okay and go with the flow. Story 172. Stopped caring at 16. I learned it quickly. 12 years later, it has become much easier. I am much happier in life. Story 173. Eisenhower Matrix. Sort my priorities into the urgent/important box while recognizing that most random tasks belong in the not urgent/not important box and are thus not worth my attention. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.